Hi, I'm Chad from TeamForge. This is LSP Talks, where I use the LEGO Serious Play method and materials to have rich conversations with interesting people. And I'm here with Rowena Harper. And Rowena is the Associate Director of Curriculum
Development and Support.
Curriculum Development and Support at the Teaching Innovation Unit at UniSA. And today this is the first video I'm doing, which may be a series, hopefully will be a series, where we are going to build the merger. So University of South Australia and University of Adelaide are in discussions to explore the possibilities of merging these two universities, which in our world is like mind-blowingly huge. Everybody's talking about it, everybody's thinking about it. So I have the guess that using LEGO Serious Play is a really good way to have conversations about what this merger might look like, some of the challenges and how it might work. So the first question we're going to work with is, please build me a model that represents your institution currently. So for the purposes of this, you're going to build the University of South Australia, I'm going to build the University of Adelaide. Now this is a personal vision, okay? So it's not the official vision, it's our own mental model of what this university means to us. So it's going to be very subjective, and that's kind of the idea. So we're going to go ahead and do that and then have a chat about it afterwards. So build me a model that represents your institution at the moment, okay? So if you know me at all, or you've seen or built university stuff with me at all, I always grab these pieces. I'm going to have to get out of that one-track mind I have with this, but sticking with it for now.
I do not think those pieces are relevant for me.
Good. That means we're not going to build the same thing.
Oh yes, I found the money.
Oh yeah, we're both going to need some of that.
We will need some of that.
There's plenty of it around.
Yeah. This is one of my favourite pieces
It's
when
great.
representing a university.
Yeah? Why's that?
It's just the prevalence of the rankings conversation. This notion of being best, winning, competition.
Yeah.
Competition. Yeah. It's such a good representation of that, I think.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's a good one because to some people it's more a thing about rewards and aspiration and general, like kind of a more personal thing rather than an externally imposed sort of.
Yeah. And depending on the day, I see it as that as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm stuck. I'm really stuck. I'm going to have to give that up and try something else. So that's one of the things with LEGO Serious Play. It's like if you get stuck on a track and you can't find a piece or whatever, you just have to let it go and start working with something else. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you. So we have done the question component of the LEGO Serious Play method, and the question was build a model that represents your institution or your university. Rowena built the University of South Australia and I built the University of Adelaide, or our own perceptions of it. You can see straight away that they're really very different straight off the bat. We did the build component, now we're going to do the share component. So I might go first, if that's okay. We can do that. So this, for me, is my perception of the University of Adelaide. So for me, Adelaide, at the moment in my head right now, Adelaide is quite a bit about, the University of Adelaide is quite a bit about prestige. So it's about prestige and status. To me, it's fairly kind of hierarchical. It's right up there, right? So it's in the GOA, so it's that ranking sort of thing. So that's why it's kind of up on a tower a little bit. And in some ways, it feels a bit like a silo, a little bit closed off. So I tend to use these castle pieces for that. There's a lot of stuff going on inside, but you can't really see in the window. It's not really very accessible. And I say this having been someone who still works there and did work there for some time, having this kind of sense of kind of being closed off from the rest of the world. And that's only a perception, of course, and it's not a judgment call, it's just kind of how it feels to me. However, on top of the university, you've got all of these flowers and this growth and this kind of awesome stuff going on. And you've got a window onto the world, which is about research, because the University of Adelaide is like really very research focused, GOA, research focused, and that's the window onto the world. It's how we understand the world, it's the frame of the world. And the research is the thing that has I can't quite hear it, has the money inside it, right? So University of Adelaide, a lot of their funding is research funding and research based. So it's based on that research stuff. And that's also where a lot of their status comes from as well. So they're the flag they're kind of flying. So although it's kind of like status and hierarchical and prestigious, there's a lot of great stuff when you get up there. However, the challenge for me is, even as someone who's been there and studied there and worked there and still works there, it still feels like people are on the bottom kind of looking up at it. So this here is the grounded, part of the world, and it feels kind of distanced. And in a way that's kind of not great because it's kind of distance, but it's also aspirational as well. So it's nice to look up to something. It's nice to look up to prestige and status and all that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So that's really it for me, I guess, about maybe a bit of disconnection from the rest of the world or other parts of the university within the university. But there's really great stuff once you kind of get up there and kind of get to that achievement level. So that's it for me. Do you have any questions or comments about that?
No, I don't think so. I was sort of, as you were talking, I was reflecting on the similarities and differences between mine.
Well, why don't you just tell me about yours then? And then we can talk about that.
I thought the window was interesting because you use the window to represent research, the window onto the world in terms of research.
Yep.
I think for me, my window represents our connection to the community that we serve and the linkages between our university and the public, the community, society.
Yep. And industry.
Through teaching and research and industry and all those various connections. And I think we do have that. I certainly included that in mine, but I thought that this small narrow window was a nice way of representing it, because I think from my perspective we need to do more. I think we're pretty good at it in our university, but I would like to see us do more and have those windows be around the university, surrounding the entire model.
Right.
So I think it's interesting too, my model's so much flatter than yours. It doesn't have a lot of height. I think
so it's not so much about that status and prestige.
That's right.
I think that's probably, most people could agree, that's one of the differences between the
absolutely.
two institutions.
I think I didn't think about height and that status and that in terms of representing. Mine was more about a centre connected out quite loosely to the different parts of the university. So you've got these kind of stringy connections. This is the kind of centre for me, these very beige kind of blocky things, which I suppose for me, I think represents sort of structure, procedure, bureaucracy, administration. That there is a centre that I think coheres, all the bits of the university together. But I think each part of the university, whether you want to call these divisions or disciplines or programs or clusters of people, whatever they are, I think are to varying degrees affected by and reflect that centre. So you've got, this section over here that I think, is very perhaps in line with central bureaucracy administration. Very similar in terms of the block colour and structure and those sorts of things in this area to some extent, and that to a little bit. These areas less so. So I think, you know, I think I was trying to represent that. I think in UniSA we are fairly cohesive, I think, as an institution. I think we're quite good at acting as one institution. There are ties into where the organisation's attempting to go. I think you know, the people for me in my model also do represent a sort of the varying degrees to which the different parts of the university feel valued. So there are parts where, you know, people are bigger, people have kind of more, I guess, more influence, more power, more value than people in other parts of the university. And that tends to also be where I've got money in mine as well. It's interesting you put money inside your blue thing. I put money in mine as well.
Was there a particular meaning behind the blue thing or that part of the model, or is that just kind of like money's in the mix always?
Well, I think for me, you know, putting money in this thing to me looks like the moon. And I think there is at the moment this really heavy emphasis on STEM disciplines. And particularly over here, you know, this little cut with the wheels kind of engineering, there's some money over here as well. I think there's a huge amount of emphasis at a governmental level, and also even in the discussion paper that was released recently about the merger, there's a very strong emphasis on STEM. And I'm not clear how other disciplines, you know, you might want to think about this as arts, humanities, social sciences, all the other kind of discipline areas that we've got at the university, you know, how are they being valued? How are we incorporating their value into what the university as a whole does? So yeah, that was kind of a bit of a STEM representation for me. And this as well.
And then this might be, as you said, the arts and humanities and that kind of more colourful, messier maybe.
Messier, exactly. Looser. I think, you know, parts that aren't necessarily so connected into, say, the financial benefits of research, but more the societal benefits of research. And I think, creativity is in there as well.
What about this person in the centre?
Yeah, well, it's the zookeeper. So I think, you know, it kind of goes along with that kind of bureaucratic block, that administrative block, the centre that sort of tries to keep everything herding the cats, keeping everything in a cohesive shape. And I think you've got to have that to some extent. I've been thinking a lot about, you know, I've been listening to Dave Snowden a bit, and you know, the extent to which your kind of central systems and processes are enabling or constraining. You know, the idea of an endoskeleton versus an exoskeleton. So I've been thinking a lot about the extent how ours works, and I don't know, I'm still not sure. But we've then got this, I think we do, like yours, you know, with the aspiring, I think that for me represents this, that we still have these aspirations, I think, to be excellent.
Is there money in there?
There is money in there. There is money in there.
There we go. Are you throwing it away?
No! A university would never do that.
I'll cut that in the air.
I think for me it represents primarily, to some extent, the rankings game. And competition and wanting to win and be better than the university down the road, you know, wanting to be better than you. But it also does reflect, I think, excellence. But I deliberately haven't put it too high.
It's just in the model somewhere.
It's in the centre. I think it's an important part of what we focus on, but it doesn't seem to me to dominate how we think as a university. I think, for me, what I value is that I quite, you know, this way that I've connected our university is these loosely connected bits. I like and value, you know, I see that as a positive thing. So yeah, I've talked a lot.
No, that's fine. That's really great. But it's like it's a complex system, and the connections are there, but they're looser. So some of the comparisons to me seem to be really strong, deep internal structures and a lot about hierarchy for me, whereas still some structure and cohesion, but a bit more looseness, a bit more flexibility maybe. We have some similarities, definitely. There's always money in the mix. Research has a role. People are in there somehow. There's a theme of this kind of structure versus flexibility and all of that as well. So that's great. So I think we have enough to work with for the next stage. Okay, so we've built our models of the university. We've built the University of South Australia and built the University of Adelaide, our own current perspectives in this moment in time. Now what we want to do is we want to do the kind of radical envisioning, the kind of imagining of what, if these two things come together, how could you imagine that? You don't just go like this, right? That's not going to work. So one of the ways that we can do is think about how are we going to bring these two things together. So this will probably be a fairly quick one, I think. I think that we spent a lot of time thinking about this, and this is really just a gesture, just a quick idea to go, what can help bring these two together? Or what can help create a conversation between these two? If we do have a merged university, that's going to be here, right? And it's going to take parts of this and parts of that. Now, if we had time, we would do an extended thing where we would, maybe take sections of this and build a shared model, or what they call a landscape model, where you put them next to each other. But I think what we're going to do is take the very first step of that, kind of the phase that the consultation is in at the moment, around what are the possibilities, what are the potentials. So if we think about a merger, the question for the next build will be, build a model, or even just select a piece. So we may just select one piece which will help on this path to a merged university. Okay, what do we need? What do we need to create a conversation? What do we need to begin synthesizing this with this, so that we come up with something that's new and coherent and has its own identity and has its own values? So, build me a model or select a piece or a couple of pieces that represent what might help on the path to this merger. Does that make sense? Okay, so we finished the build component there. Unusually in an LSP Talks interview, we're doing 2 iterations. So normally we just have one bit of a taste, but I think this really lends itself to, building on what we've already done. So the original question was, build your university, University of Adelaide, University of South Australia. We shared that. And then if we're going to have a merger, build what we need to help create that new future, to envision that new future. So you can go first this time. Tell me about what you built.
I saw the tortoise and thought, that's nice, because I think what we don't want to do is rush the process. I think it's just slow forward movement, recognising that we're not going to merge these 2 universities quickly. They're very different. And so I think a slow inquiring trudge forward is probably a good way to go. And so I saw this kind of slow, but towing behind that slow movement, I guess, is the thing I think needs to drive the unfolding of this new organisation is conversations and collaboration between people at all levels and people from all parts of the university. So I sort of pulled people together.
People are at the core. That's what it's
and
about.
I think to the greatest possible extent, giving people in their area ownership of shaping what this new organisation looks like.
Great, fantastic. That's good.
And
it's interesting because the tortoise is often, or the turtle or tortoise, can't tell, is often used to present a really slow-moving university, like resistant to change, not going anywhere, kind of all of that. But it's being used in a much more positive sense here, like, slow and steady.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, that's right. Good.
Slow and steady wins.
And I like the people. Oh yeah, you want the ranking thing there. Great. Okay. Well, this is mine. So there are no people in it, actually. I guess they're there by implication. For me, this is one of my favourite pieces. I'll see if I can find another one. No, I can't right now. It's a big black piece that has studs on 3 sides. So it's, for some people it represents fear or the unknown, or it can represent creativity. For me, it's kind of like the unknown. We actually don't really know what we need to make this merger work yet. in some ways. What we do need is we need something that can come at things from different angles, that has studs on all different sides. But for me, I had to work hard to find more connecting pieces because you used some of them already. But for me, it's all about connections. So the merger, if this is the merger, it has to connect diverse things to each other, and it needs to make that as a fundamental principle. That it's about connections and building connections, multiple levels, a bit like you, between mostly people, I think, because I generally tend to think about connections in terms of people and groups of people, multiple levels, all of that. So radical connections, and in ways that we don't expect, so the red tubes are here to represent unexpected types of connections. A bit of a contrast to you was that I put these jet engines
I
on
saw,
there, right?
yeah.
So my fear was that it would go too slow, and that it would stall and people would become too comfortable. So we also need a process that also does keep things moving,
Yes.
it does kind of push things forward. Finally, the last two aspects are that looking for things in common, and the colour blue is something both universities have in common. You should try and imagine a new name for the university or a new logo for the university, and that's just mind-bendingly difficult to even imagine that. But if you think, we don't have to change the colour, do we? We just stick with blue. Then we can look for commonalities as well. But then ultimately what we need creativity. We need this explosion of ideas. We need that to be the crowning achievement of what the merger is going to be, where it's innovation and it's organic and all of that as well. So yeah, there are some interesting themes there.
I think in terms of speed, when I was thinking of the tortoise, one of the things I didn't want was that we would rush to technical solutions for complex problems.
Yeah.
So that this recognising that this is an incredibly complex, it'll be the most complex thing I've ever been a part of, I think, in my working career, if it goes ahead. So that we don't want to speed into these quick technical bureaucratic solutions, administrative solutions for things.
Yeah.
But to some extent, you've got to let things unfold on the ground where they are, and these conversations is what will help do that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, absolutely, conversations are what kind of can create that connection. And what I'm hoping is that LEGO Serious Play will have a role in facilitating those conversations as well. So it certainly has today. Thank you so much for your time and building with me today.
My
That's
pleasure.
been really fantastic. Thanks a lot, and thanks for watching. Bye.